Hi, everybody. Hey, thanks for joining us for today's session. I know you're just kind of getting set up on your side. We have just a few people at the moment, but we'll give it another minute to see if we have some more coming in. As you get set up, just a few kind of housekeeping notes. So if you can keep yourself on mute is great, and we can do questions in the chat, or if we're a small enough group towards the question side, we can always unmute at that time. And if you have the opportunity to turn on your camera, that would be great so we can see some faces and make this a little bit more interactive. Always love to see some cameras to see who we're chatting with. Makes for a little bit nicer session. And last but not least, if you wouldn't mind putting your major that you study or studied in the chat is awesome because that can help us get a little bit of an idea of the type of people that we're chatting with. So I see there's just a few people in the session right now. If you don't mind putting your major in the chat and turning the camera on if you get the chance, would be greatly appreciated. Yeah, and then we'll get started here in just a minute. Finance, okay, interesting. Cool. All right, well, while we wait for that, oh, I see one more coming in. Okay, just graduated from professional communications, majoring in journalism. Excellent. Great, great. Now, while I think some others join in, let's go ahead and get started. And so today we're going to talk about how to craft a standout resume. And I'm really excited for you all to be in this session today because we're going to be chatting with Vanessa Dolan. Vanessa, I worked for global advertising agencies for over 20 years in Australia, Amsterdam, New York, Oman, and Dubai. Vanessa is a senior recruiter for over 8 years and is also a coach for Outbound Initiative within our program. So the perfect person to be talking to you about resumes. And I really recommend for all of you that are on the call today to ask as many questions as possible in a chat because anything that you have questions about your resume, how to format it, what do I put for here and there, what do I do if I don't have enough experience, why isn't my resume getting picked up when I'm submitting applications, like all those types of questions are going to be great to answer today and get advice from somebody who's on the other side who actually does the recruitment and actually looks at all the resumes. So this is a really important session. A quick workshop agenda. We're going to cover a few different things, how to make your resume strong in today's world. Um, some key resume sections. We're going to talk about Outbound Initiative briefly, and what our program is. And then we're also going to have time for Q&A. So I'm going to hand it over. Let me just kind of one step back, and I'm going to hand this over to Vanessa, to do a proper introduction for yourself, Vanessa, and then I will, we can go through the slides. Just let me know when you're ready.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Vanessa. I'm located in Melbourne, Australia. And as Benjamin said, I worked in advertising agencies for 25 years. I work in creative recruitment here in Australia and also alongside recruitment for the last 8 years. I've been a coach here with Outbound. So yeah, I really enjoy these sessions. And if you sign up to Outbound, you'll probably be coached by me in some aspect, which will be great. So yeah, let's get stuck straight into it of what you're here for today, which is a resume in today's world. So the big question is, why should we have a resume? You need it for two reasons. You will have to apply for most jobs on websites and platforms like LinkedIn and job boards. You have to attach a resume. So we need it for that reason. Also, you may be applying for roles directly to companies or to the human resources manager. So when we start working and applying for jobs, we really need a resume. Who will be reading the resume? Well, I have to admit, in this day and age, today, It is probably going to be AI or ATS that will be reading it in the first instance. So I've got a lot of tips for this and what we need to adhere to moving forward so that ATS and AI can actually read it. Um, Second in line after AI and ATS is the hiring manager. That can be creative directors, it could be marketing managers, it could be the managing directors, it could be the CEOs, and it could also be the recruiters like myself if you're applying for jobs through recruitment agencies or through the likes of LinkedIn. Let's go to the next one, Ben. Okay, overall, what should it look like? Again, we're talking in today's world. We can't have any crazy colors, no photos, no nothing like that. It really needs to be in black and white. The reason for that is that ATS and AI, for the purposes of reading resumes, can only read words. So if you have a big image at the top or you have a photo, it will stop there because it can't read any further. So it's super important that it's black and white and words. Yeah. How long should it be? If you're starting off, really only one page. If you have a little bit more experience, then 2 pages. But at this stage of your career, no longer than 1 to 2 pages. Yeah. And what should it include? It should include your contact details. It should include education, work and volunteer experience, which is, the volunteer experience is super cool if you haven't had the work experience. And also, most importantly, the skills. And today we need to include those AI skills. So let's go through every section there that I talked about on how to actually lay it out. Yeah. So the next page, these are your contact details, and it really needs to be super easy. These are my contact details, yeah? So your name, where you're located, that's also super important, and especially with outbound, you could be applying for roles internationally. Let's say where we're actually located. So in my case, it's Melbourne, Australia. You have your email there. You have your telephone number. Again, in this international world, let's put the prefix of the country there so we know again where you are. If you have a portfolio, it needs to be a URL link to your portfolio, and you must have LinkedIn as well, and that needs to be a URL link as well. Don't ever have click here or any other ways of finding the URLs for your email portfolio and LinkedIn, because we may be looking at that through LinkedIn, we may be looking at it through a website, we may be looking at it through a different software program. So the URL is super important at this stage to have that fully there so we can just click on it. Okay, education. It really needs to be quite simple. We don't need to write a whole lot of information there. As I said there, the name of the bachelor or the course and the qualification date, the name of the university and the state and the country. So if you've done a Bachelor of Arts in Urban Studies, you're going to complete that in May 2026. And it was at the University of California, Berkeley, USA. That's it. That's all we need to know. Yeah. And if you've done a short course or other education, just name the course, short course in UX and UI design. In 2024, you did that at General Assembly in Sydney, Australia. Yeah. It really needs to be no more complicated than that. Let's go to the next page. Okay, work experience. This is also saving us a little bit of room that we're having everything laid out like this. If you take more room, then that takes up more space on your resume. We really want to condense it down to 1 or 2 pages. So the title and the company and the dates can all be on one line. and then we need the description in point form. So as you can see there, you know, graphic designer at intern at Reflex Group in New York from October to December 2024, and then just put in short point forms there of what you actually did. Don't go into long sentences. Be quite specific and keep it in point form. I think for work experience, you do need between 2 and 4 points if you worked in a role. Yeah. This is actual work experience, and I think you need to be have these many points there to describe what you did. Let's go to the next page. Okay, a lot of you would have had, you know, F&B or hospitality or work experience that's not directly related to the role that you want to go for. We can be much, much shorter in this experience, but it's still really, really important to put this experience on here. So as you can see, title, company, and dates, and then just one line of information. You know, barista at the coffee cup, you know, coffee company from October 2024 to present, taking orders and making coffee. Yeah, that's fine. And front desk receptionist, you know, answering calls and communicating with hotel guests. It is super important to put this experience in your resume, even though it's not related to the role that you're going to, because as the hiring manager or recruiter, it demonstrates to us that you have turned up on time to a job, that you have communicated with people, that you have been organized. And this all feeds in. This is all your experience that you bring to the table. So don't leave this experience off. Just make it a lot shorter than the actual work experience. Okay, fantastic. Next page. Volunteer experience. This is super important as well. Every bit of experience helps at this stage. And again, you know, the name of the title, the company, the dates, and one short sentence. So, for instance, you were a garden educator with the Green Heart Project from March to September. You taught children how to plant seeds, organically fertilize, water, compost, and generally maintain a garden bed. Or if you were a tutor, you know, English tutor at Southern Cross, these are the dates, helped adults develop grammar and vocabulary through reading and writing activities. Again, this demonstrates your communication skills with people, demonstrates that you've been somewhere on time and that you have had experience of working. This all builds up on your resume. Okay, next page. Okay, skills. Now, these are all hard skills, what I would call hard skills. So we need to differentiate them into software, which is super important. If you're a photographer, then equipment, and then if you speak other languages, languages. Now, if you are in the creative industry, please don't write Adobe Creative Suite. As a recruiter, when I'm searching through using AI to find, for instance, a graphic designer, I do specifically ask for Photoshop, InDesign, and After Effects. You know, and if you have their Adobe Creative Suite, then AI, unfortunately, is not intelligent to know exactly which programs in Adobe Creative Suite you use. So we really need to spell it out. And also with Adobe Creative Suite, the last time I looked, it had 22 programs. Now, I've been in recruitment for a while. I don't know anybody who uses all 22 of the programs. So let's just be specific, as I've written there, you know, Photoshop, InDesign, After Effects, Premiere Pro, Firefly. What is also really important there, as you'll see at the end, AI. It's really, really important now to list whether you've been using ChatGPT or you've been using Gemini or you've been using Firefly or Nano Banana. In this day and age with AI, it's not about which program you use. It's more that you are AI articulate. And also, there's a lot of companies that have IT firewalls. So if this was my resume, I would put a Gemini on there because I'm only allowed to use Gemini because it's part of the Google Workspace. So it really is about listing the AI tools that you are using, but that's not necessarily what you may use with the company. They may have something else there. But if you are AI literate, you will be AI literate in any program that is available. Yeah. And also, I've listed equipment there. If you're a photographer or videographer, list the cameras that you are using. That is going to be important for your industry. And then the last one there, if you do speak two languages, then include the languages that you speak and where you are rated there. If you just know a couple of words in Greek or Spanish, then don't put it there. Yeah. And if it's just English that you're speaking, then we don't necessarily need to write the language there. Okay. All right, as I said earlier, it really needs to be black and white, and it really just needs to be words on the pages. I absolutely love the templates that Canva offers. Yeah, they're free and they're also guiding you exactly where the information should go. Each one of them has contact details. Each one of them has templates to follow for the work experience, and also their skills and languages and references. They're all there, yeah. And with Canva, they're all free. Just make sure that you choose a black and white template to follow, and that will help guide you. Let's go to the next page. These are not good examples. So as you can see from Ahmed, this is, the black, it's a block of color and AI is not going to be able to read it. It's going to see that block color as an image and it won't read any further. It also won't be able to be uploaded to a company's specific, software program that they're using. It will just come up as an error. And as you can see, the copy is not black, it's white. So even though this is sort of black and white with a bit of color, it's not going to get through that ATS and AI. And the second one there, I absolutely love this. I love how creative it is, but you can't read it. You can't really read anything in detail there. And again, AI and ATS are not going to be able to pick it up. And the same with Elise. That's a solid color there. That the background of the brown is a solid color, and it's not going to be readable at all. Yeah, let's go to the next page. That's it from me. Yeah, I think that's a really good overall explanation of what you need. As I said, go to Canva and have a look at their templates that they've got because that will also guide you onto what should be on your resume.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Vanessa. And I think for everybody that's in the chat, we have plenty of time for questions also as well. So, as you have some questions, please put them in the chat. But I'm going to kick it off with a few things.
Yeah.
So Vanessa, tell me a little bit about what are some of the differences that you see between junior entry level resumes versus more senior resumes, and what would you expect? You've named some of the things, but what would you expect to see for somebody that's just graduating university, for example, and trying to get an entry level position? How much content are you looking to see there? What are the number of experiences that they've had, et cetera? Yeah.
Yeah, I really, the key thing. So to answer your first question, what is the difference between somebody with more experience and someone with less experience? The more experience, I would expect to see almost 2 or 3 pages, because if they've had 10 years experience, they've probably had 2 or 3 roles. So there's definitely going to be big chunks of information there. But still the foundation is still there for somebody senior or just coming into the market. There's still the contact details, education, the skills. Um, those are the foundation of every resume. For someone entering into the workforce now, I think it's super important to list those experiences that you've had as a barista or working at a food and beverage or in hospitality. I think that's super important to have there. And also any volunteer experience. Maybe you did volunteer experience while you were at university. Let's put that in there. As your career develops, those things can be taken out, and then the more work experience can be put in. But I think at this stage of your career, it's great to include everything, so that we can see that you have turned up to places on time, you have communicated with people, you've worked in groups, before. As I said, it doesn't matter if it's not relevant to the job that you're going to right now in your career. It's still super important to have that on the resume. And when you have your contact details, your skills, work experience, your education, that will make up a page on a resume. So yeah.
Great. Yeah, and how should, I think a lot of cases that we get, or a lot of cases I see, students or recent graduates, they're collecting some experience, but that experience often tends to be little odd jobs, freelance jobs, not necessarily something full time, right? So they might have the barista job that they've worked for a couple of
Yeah.
years, but then they're also starting to build some experience in graphic design, but those are, maybe a one-off project, maybe something else was for 1 month, maybe something else was a little bit longer. Um, at what point should an experience be its own line item? And at what point should it be compiled into, say, freelance graphic design work for various clients?
Oh, that's a good question. Depends on, I think if you've done maybe 6 months of, freelance work and some things here and some things there and some things there, have that as one line item. And if you've had work experience in a studio as an intern for 3 months, then that should be one line item there. Um, in regards to creativity, it's also super important to understand that we don't just get the resume and then judge it all on that. We want to see your LinkedIn profile, so make sure that there's information there. That would also have your bio written there, whereas at this stage, your resume doesn't have the bio there.
Mm.
And also, if you've done bits and pieces of creative work here and there, that should be in your folio. As a recruiter and a hiring manager, for any role that I have, I would read their resume, I would look at their LinkedIn profile, and I would also look at their folio. So
Mm.
don't expect everything to be done with the resume. Like it can't do everything, it's just one element of it. Yeah. So if you are a writer or you are a designer, then yes, you do need a website as well. But we're also looking at LinkedIn as well. So the resume doesn't have to do all of the work.
Got it. Um, as a recruiter, can you tell if something is written by AI, and do you care if it covers the basis of what they're supposed to say and it actually is truthful? Does it matter if it's written by AI or handwritten?
Um, Look, I personally don't like cover letters for that reason, because you can easily put in the job description and your resume and say, write me a cover letter, and the cover letter is going to be perfect. I come to the table with this, this, and this, and I'm super cool. So Yes, we can tell when it's written by AI, and that's why it's important to have it in your own words. And also the the examples, as I said, for the work experience, it really needs to be in point form, not long sentences of what you've done. And AI's sort of okay at point form, but again, as a recruiter and as a hiring manager, I am going to look at the resume and then I'm going to see if the work corresponds with that. If you said, yeah, I designed all these t-shirts and outdoor billboards and I did these campaigns and I did the social media and I click on your website and it's not there, then I know already that it's not there. So you do need to be truthful, because we do see through that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you a question too along the same lines that might be harder to answer, which is attention to detail is super, super important, right? And I think it used to be that like if we want to see things perfect because that means that you scanned your resume 4 times and you made sure that it's all there. Um, are you kind of seeing it sometimes as a slight little positive if you see a tiny mistake because you're like, oh, wait a minute, they actually wrote this resume, this
Yeah.
wasn't pumped up. Um,
Yeah, I do,
not
but
necessarily a full
don't.
positive, but kind of being like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I do see that now. I think, 5 years ago, if I saw a mistake, I'd be like, they didn't check it. And now if it's too perfect, then you know what? I don't think I have seen resumes done by AI. If I have, then they've passed. But for me, it's the cover letter. And that's why I don't ask for a cover letter because that's just so easily to be written by AI, which doesn't
Hmm.
hurt that it's written by AI. I think, if you are writing a cover letter, you could ask AI to give it a go first, but then put it in your own words. But I think, yeah,
Hmm.
we do know at the moment who's writing with AI and who's not.
Good to hear. Yeah, I think that that's helpful for everybody that's here. I'm going to take a quick pause and talk about ABI just for a minute, give
Sure.
you a water break, Vanessa, and then in
Yeah.
the
Thank you.
meantime, for those of you on the call, please please pop your questions in the chat and really use this time to pick Vanessa's brain on what you think you should do for your resume or any questions that you have around recruitment. Let me just switch back over to my slides here. Great. So just a quick introduction. This will not be too long about our Outbound Initiative and who we are. So we're a global internship program for creatives. And a little bit just kind of a brief introduction. We're kind of like an extra course that you're going to take outside of your university, but offers a lot of value and practical implementation because we help you start your career, and focus on internship placement, career readiness, and network building. And we're a small program, so we have really hands-on support to all of the participants that come through the program every year. In terms of internship destinations, there's a lot of different places that you can go through our program. We're an international program. You could do things in the United States. You could do things in Europe, Australia, or you could do a virtual internship as well. So lots of opportunities in terms of where you might want to travel to. And then in terms of internship types, we have 5 main areas. So advertising communications. This could be coming from marketing, advertising, business, writing, or PR background, design. So anything graphic, branding, motion, content creation, or UI UX, fashion business, entertainment and media. So if you're looking for things on like production or post-production, and then fine arts. So working for an artist, gallery, or institution. So those are the areas that we cover and lots of internship opportunities in there. If and when you enter the program, when you go through the admissions process, we'll pick with you together your timeline, your destinations, and your internship types based on your goals. And then we'll find an internship for you within that strategy. Um, our program is a program that has a tuition, so you should know all of the inclusions that come with it and make sure that you get the most out of it. And I'll go through each of these really briefly. So right before the internship itself, you will go through our ABI Academy. This is a coaching and mentorship program that you're going to work on your profile, your resume, portfolio, interview skills, and also recruitment preparation. And then you're also going to get prepared for the internship itself. And this happens before the placement process because we want to make sure that you have a standout profile. And this is actually how we get you placed with our partner companies. And then we also want to make sure that in the internship itself that you're really set up for success and you can build opportunities out of it. Some of our industry experts, you'll see Vanessa there, but many industry experts that we work with across different brands and across different industries that we have to offer. And these professionals will help you with your portfolio, your resume, and also coach you about the industry itself. Number two is a guaranteed internship placement. So the unique part of our program is that you are guaranteed an internship placement through the program, meaning that if we don't secure something for you on time and within the fields and destination that we decide together with you, you will receive a full tuition refund. So that's really there to ensure that you feel confident moving forward with us, and we're 98% successful in making that happen. So you can really count on us to make that work. Internships could be 3 to 6 months long. They could be part-time or full-time. You could do it for credit or just for experience. And around 60% of our participants have received employment opportunities from the companies that they did an internship with. So this is a really great segue into your career if you're planning on graduating or if you've already graduated. One thing to note is internships could be paid or unpaid, so you need to budget for an unpaid internship when you're thinking about this program. Some of the company partners that we work with, just flashing it through on the screen. I'm not going to read off every detail, but we have, over 300 partners that we work with around the world across the industries that I mentioned. And they're going to be the ones deciding to hire you based on your profile, but we have a relationship with them that we can get your profile to the top of the stack. Travel support, if you're going internationally, we handle the visa, the insurance, housing arrangements, which are optional. And then you also get in-city orientation and support when you're in city. And you also get just overall dedicated support from our team. So all through that, profile preparation, through the placement with partner companies, we're doing all the heavy lifting with the company. You're showing up for the interview. And then once you land in city, making sure that you're all situated there as well and have events. And then last but not least, you have access to our community. I think building a network is super duper important. You're probably told that all the time, but you wonder how to do it. And this is an area that you can do it from. So we have a lot of alum that have been through the program. It's a great place for you to start that. They're all accessible on our app that you'll have lifetime access to. And then we do events in all of our cities. We have exclusive job boards, and we do workshops like this, exclusive for our alumni. And some of our alumni have gone on to work for some amazing places. So this is just examples of the types of people that you could be in touch with, through the program if you really leverage that to the best of your ability. I talked about tuition. So if you're doing something domestically or virtually, 2250. If you're going internationally, 3250. That includes all the program fees, but it does not include, visa, housing, flights, or things like that. But you're with our program for at least 6 months from start to finish, including the internship. And you'll see that I think you get a ton of value out of this, and you'll feel really like, okay, I feel much more situated for my career coming out of this program than I did before. And for those of you that might be coming from a financial needs-based background, we have a grant that we offer up to the full program fee for our domestic and virtual programs. And that information can be found on our grants and scholarships page, and you can apply for that during the application process. And how to apply. Our next application deadline, if you're thinking of doing something, in November, or if anybody is dialing in from, Europe, for example, if you're thinking of doing something in the fall, then we have an application deadline coming up on May 10th. If you want to do something international, it's the right time to apply because we need a lot of time to prepare your profile and get you those placements. And the application process is really simple. I'm going to put the application link here in the chat, but you just fill out an application, no fee to apply. We send you to an interview. That's when we finalize and decide your strategy. We'll send you the result. And then after you have been accepted into the program and you decide to move forward is the only time that you'll have any deposit or fee or anything to move forward with. All before that, you can just explore. So I would really recommend, if you're thinking about this as a potential opportunity for yourself, or you think this might be right for you, send in an application, have a chat with our team, and then you can always decide, if you want to move forward or not at that time. All right. And we do have one more event tomorrow talking about AI and the future of creative hiring. So that's at 10 a.m. Australian time. So really recommend for you to join. And you can find that also on our events page. Yeah. All right, great. Sorry, I had a random call coming in my phone. Perfect. So I'm going to stop sharing screen here. I am going to share that link and then give me just 1 second while I do that. Perfect. Let me drop that in the chat here. Excellent. Awesome. Okay, any questions? Anybody on this call have any questions for Vanessa, for myself? You can unmute yourself if you'd like. We only have a few people on the call, or you can drop it in the chat if you prefer. Anything that we can answer about resumes, recruitment, or any of that process. And I'll just give it a couple minutes, but otherwise, I will have a few questions as well from my side.
Okay.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi,
Hi,
Julia. How are
Julia.
you?
Hi. I have a few questions. Um, First off, how would I balance authenticity with professionalism for for example, my LinkedIn bio or job interviews?
Just be honest. As I said, at this point of your career, not everything is going to be related. The experience that you've had is not necessarily going to be related to the job that you're or the industry that you're going into. But it's really important to list all of those things. I think when you talk about, your resume versus LinkedIn, it really needs to be the same. If you're going to put the information on your resume, make sure that it's on LinkedIn as well. That's one thing that I highly recommend because, as I said, when myself as a recruiter looking at applications, I look at their resume and I look at LinkedIn, and I do want them to be the same. LinkedIn is basically a resume that sits there for you for people to find you. So be authentic and be honest with it, because then, if we need to ask questions at interview stage, then you'll be able to answer them for us.
hmm Okay, cool. Because I know you're meant to
Yeah.
meant to kind of hype yourself up. I mean, of course, there's like a definitely a balance of being honest and being like saying, I'm great, I'm a really great employee, and hyping yourself up. But I guess as long as it matches and you're bringing that same energy across all of your like resume and all of that stuff. Is that kind of the
Yeah.
case?
And look, it is difficult to get. I think you can show more of that flair on LinkedIn because you can add in images there, or you can post short messages and films and show creative, whereas the resume really does need to be black and white. But if you did really well at university, or that you won an award for a piece of work that you've done, list all those things, write the awards that you've won, and say that where you have been placed. All of this is to get you to that interview stage where your personality will really shine through. So,
Mhm.
but just remember, as I said earlier, it's not just the resume. The resume is super important, but LinkedIn and your website is also going to be important to secure you that interview.
Mm. Thanks, Vanessa.
Yeah,
I
Julia,
have one more question.
yeah, I just
So,
want to add to that, Julia, really quick, onto that question as well, just from my own experience hiring and also taking people into the roles here, which is that I think that there's a few things that we look for typically. One is the hard skills, right? Like, so what experience do you have that might be aligned with the type of role that we're hiring for? And like, at least in the roles that we have here, we don't always look for exact alignment. What we're looking for is, are there transferable skills that will potentially fit well into the role that we're looking for? So for example, you might be applying for an account management role with an ad firm, and having had hospitality experience is extremely transferable because you've dealt with people, you've dealt with clients, you've dealt with situations that are going to transfer
Mhm.
well into that account management role. So those are the types of hard skill sets that a company might look for. But then we also look for that authenticity that you're talking about really comes through on more of the soft skills or on the personality side of things. And sometimes that can really be hard to showcase in a resume, where you're just listing off your experiences, as Vanessa said. But your LinkedIn, within your bio, you can spice it a little bit as long as it remains mainly professional, still be yourself. You can have a nice photo, you can have a nice background, cover image that speaks to you a little bit in
Yeah.
your portfolio in your About Me section. That's a great place if you have a portfolio to really lean in and talk about yourself so that somebody knows, like, who are we potentially hiring? Like, we also want somebody cool for our office that's going to get along with everybody really well. But then last but not least is talking about your soft skills. So I don't think that all companies are necessarily looking for you to, I mean, especially at a junior level, they're not expecting you to have 10 years of experience or know how everything works. What they're looking for is, hey, is this person really open to learning? Are they really eager to learn this industry? Are they adaptable in the way in which they approach situations? Or do they have a very kind of fixed mindset that's going to be really hard for us to work with? And that's, I think, one point that makes a big difference. And it's hard to find in people. So if you can share that in the interview process once you get there, then I think that opens up a lot of opportunities for you. Yeah.
Mm, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, I
And
especially,
that's,
oh,
sorry, yeah,
no,
go,
you go.
Julia. And
I was
that's
just going
also
to say that
the
especially,
reason, why Outbound is super cool because your resume is reviewed by the likes of me. So if I see things that are missing or, I think you could elaborate more on it, that's the feedback you get. The resume, your first draft is, and nobody else sees it, is not what is going to go to the agencies. It actually goes through us and we have a discussion about that. So, it doesn't, you don't do it just once. We actually review it for you. So,
mm,
yeah.
yeah, thank you. My last question, was that, um, I've heard that a strong idea for resumes is to use the formula, I did X to Y to achieve Z, and use
Mhm.
data results. First, would you recommend doing that? And then secondly, how can I do this when I'm in a job where I don't have specifically clear results?
Yeah, that's already by describing that, that's already quite a lot of information that you would have to put in there under the work experience. I think where this, and as you said, you may not actually be coming to the table at this stage with that A plus B equals C. What is important, what stats are important is, if you have organized events, then how many events have you organized and for how many people? Organizing two events for 10 people is different to organizing 16 events with 35 people in there. That simple point form already gives me a lot of information about what you're capable of. And for instance, if you're a designer, designed social media assets. Well, what social media assets? Designed, social media assets for TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, and we did 5 different campaigns. So the numbers are important to list in there. That also gives the reader, like myself, the recruiter or the HR manager, a much broader sense than I just designed social media assets. Saying what you did it for and how many times you had to do it, and perhaps even how many assets already gives me a really good idea of what you're capable of. So I think more of the stats there of things rather than I did this to achieve that to get that result, because that's almost, I think that can be discussed at interview stage anyway.
Mhm. That's actually really funny that you said social media assets because that's exactly what my job is at the moment. I'm a social media coordinator. So that's
Yeah,
exactly,
well,
I
list
submitted a
list
job.
those
Mhm.
list those assets and don't just say social media. Exactly where have they been placed? That already shows me a breadth of information of what you're capable of managing. And then how many assets? Was it 5 or was it 55? That's already telling me a lot more information. So yeah,
Mhm. Thank you. Thanks for answering my questions.
that's okay.
Absolutely. Thanks for the good questions. Thanks, Julia. Anybody else have some questions that you'd like to share here? We have about
Yeah.
15 minutes
Hi,
left.
hi, Vanessa.
Hi.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask that does the format you upload your resume in matter? Because I've heard people say that, oh, PDFs do not get picked up by ATS, so it needs to be a Word document and things like that. So does it actually matter?
No, it doesn't. I personally wouldn't send a Word document. I would make it a PDF because then it can't be changed. Yeah. AI and ATS can read a black and white PDF, and a PDF uh, is preferable because some companies may not actually have the Microsoft Word 365. We
Yeah.
don't have Microsoft Word. So if somebody sends me a Word document, whichever platform it is, has actually transferred it through to a PDF anyway. So I'd really stay away from Word and make sure that they're PDFs and just make sure that they're black and white.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're
Another
welcome.
another question that I had is like, so the resume that I have drafted right now, I also have like a small bit of summary in the beginning that gives context to, who I am as a designer, what are my expertise and things like that. And initially, I was writing more about myself, but then I attended this other workshop that mentioned that, oh, you need to mention your numbers, like how Julia mentioned. Your numbers, like I've graduated from this place, I've done 4 design roles, and I have a right to work and things like that. So, is it better to first have more about myself rather than these numbers in the summary part, or should I just avoid a summary part entirely?
I think at this stage of the career, avoid the summary part because one, it's taking up a lot of space, and
Yeah.
as a seasoned recruiter and HR manager, don't forget, I can read through a resume in 3.5 seconds and get the information that I want. I'm not necessarily reading everything. I'm seeing, your skills, where you've worked, where you've gone to university. I can work out in 1.5 seconds how long of experience you've actually got. And as I said before, writing a summary or a bio, you can put that in LinkedIn and put it under your about section. If you have a website, as Benjamin said, put that bio and that introduction in your about me section on your website. Don't try and squeeze everything into the resume and expect that to do the heavy lifting for you. If you put, 4 roles that you've had or 4 lots of experience and you went to that university and your LinkedIn profile I will work all of that out anyway as a recruiter and a hiring manager. So try, as I said before, try not to have your resume do absolutely everything for you. You've also got LinkedIn to be a little bit more creative and to show images, and you've also got your website showcasing the work.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much, Vanessa.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Great. Thanks for the good question. Anybody else have some questions?
Sorry, I have one more.
No
Came
problem,
to
Julia.
me. Um, should I be following the hiring manager on LinkedIn or contacting anyone, or is that creepy and weird?
No, it's not creepy. And the thing is that there's a difference between connecting on LinkedIn and following. I think you should definitely follow the company on LinkedIn. So if the hiring manager is from, Saatchi and Saatchi, New York, it's probably an idea to follow Saatchi and Saatchi, New York, rather than the actual person. But then in my case, I'm quite active on LinkedIn and I have all my job opportunities on there. So it's a good idea to follow me, Vanessa, and Aquent Australia because both of them will post. I think these days, and this has changed in the last couple of years with LinkedIn, you did have to connect with somebody. Now you can just go in and follow them. But definitely the hierarchy would be definitely follow the company that you're interested in. And second, yeah, you could follow the HR manager or the talent specialist.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to connect as well. I think that, at least on our side, whenever we put a job opportunity out there, we immediately get 200 applications in
Yeah.
LinkedIn in about 2 days. And the thing is, it's really hard to filter. I mean, Vanessa is probably much better at it, but it's really hard to filter through all those 200, and really make sure that you're not missing somebody who could be good. So any little extra action that you take that makes me feel like you're a little bit more motivated to be with us and you're taking an extra level and you're not just, just hitting apply to everything you see on LinkedIn makes me feel more interested in your profile. And, if it's not the right profile, it's not going to work anyway. But if it is the right profile, potentially, it gives me that extra moment of being like, oh, Julia also messaged me. Like, let me just take an extra look at this profile real quick. It might give you that leg in. So I think get all the points you can, in a recruitment process. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Cool. Any
Thank
any
you.
other questions? Mhm.
And it's funny, we talk about connecting on LinkedIn and following companies in, the mock interviews that we do, which is another whole section and webinar
Yeah.
to talk about. But yeah, I highly recommend following companies that you're interested in and the people that you're really interested in as well. You don't want too many because if you're following like, 500, 600 people, that will all come up in your feed and you may miss, some really important updates. So I think craft who you're following. Don't just choose, random people. LinkedIn works very similarly to Instagram. If you're following 1,000, accounts on Instagram, you may miss some things. So it's all a bit of a balance.
Yeah. Great point. Well, I'll leave it with one slightly funny story, which is that one of the best experiences I saw on a resume was a social media manager for Airbnb, and I was very excited. And then I found out and realized that they were, marketing their own Airbnb listing and not working for Airbnb. So that was one way of being a bit inauthentic, Julia, about what their experience was.
Yeah,
And those are
yeah.
very different things, So
Need to
uh,
get specific on that. Yeah,
but
love
anyway,
it.
this was great. Vanessa, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Any kind of last words of advice, and then I'll leave a couple of links here as well.
I think, just be honest, be clear, make sure it's black and white, and just remember your resume is not doing everything for you. It is a super important piece, but also remember, we are looking at LinkedIn and we do look at your website as well. So the resume doesn't have to do everything. Just think about those different areas that need to be covered as well as the resume.
Great, excellent. Well, thank you everybody that was on the call, and thanks for your good questions. I'm leaving here my LinkedIn. I'm also leaving Vanessa's LinkedIn. I know at least for me, you can
Yes.
totally connect. You can send me a message anytime you need something. Happy to answer questions. I don't get that many messages on LinkedIn, so please send me a message. I'd be happy to answer questions anytime. And don't forget to apply to our program if you think it might be interesting, so that we can explore with you if it's the right option for you. Yeah. Well, Vanessa, thanks for your time. This was fantastic. I really
Thanks so
appreciate the
much.
time, and
You're
thank you
welcome.
everybody that joined. I appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.